Welcome to the For Love of the Land podcast. We're your hosts, Adam Keith
and Matt Dye. Each week we're interviewing guests from across America. They all have one thing in common. They all are tied to the land. So if you're like us and you love all things land, welcome home.
All right, agent number one that we're interviewing is Mr. Ben Harshyne. Ben, how you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. How are you?
Doing great. Doing good. So tell us a little bit as we jump in. Tell us who you're with and where you're at.
Sure. Yep, I'm with Whitetail Properties Real Estate, and I'm in eastern Iowa. So with Whitetail Properties, my brokerage assigns us territories that we can exclusively market and advertise in. So I've got a handful of counties in east central Iowa. Part of it is considered southeast Iowa, and then a couple of my counties are more considered central Iowa. So I'm essentially located along the Interstate 80 corridor near Iowa City, and then I go south, primarily south from there. So I've got Louisa County, I've got Washington, Keokuk, Mahaska. Those are counties that go from the Mississippi River on west, and I've got the Skunk River that goes through there. So the Skunk River is a pretty notorious one in southern Iowa for some pretty good deer hunting and habitat. And then you go north, I've got Johnson County, which is kind of unique because that's where Iowa City is. So I've got some land there that's more on the developmental ground because Iowa City's growing. There's a lot of buildable acreages there, so that's kind of interesting. And then as you head west, I got a lot of CRP and tillable ground, and as you get into Iowa and Poweshiek and Tama County. So I've got a pretty good variety, tillable heavy, ag heavy, but there's still some really good whitetail habitat throughout my counties as well.
Man, that's cool. I think, when you just say Iowa, there's already like a mindset people have, oh my gosh, southern, southeast Iowa, Mississippi, like it's flyway, it's farm ground, it's whitetail hunting. That's a pretty cool place to be on land every single day of the week and kind of have your hand in that pot.
When you say southern Iowa, I think a crop farmer, his ears would perk up, and then I think a deer hunter would definitely perk up. So
and cattle too. There's a lot of cattle.
Great area to be.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, southern Iowa. So basically, if to break the state of Iowa down, the two southern rows, the two southernmost rows of counties is your classic southern Iowa high-end whitetail hunting that a lot of people know about. The two counties that are on the Missouri line.
Yep.
And you got a lot of cattle country down there because of how rugged it is. There's a lot of pasture, a lot of cattle operations. There's obviously tillable ground there, but as you start to head north, ground gets a lot more flat, a lot more wide open, all the way up into some counties in northern and central Iowa. There's really not even many whitetails. I think there's some counties they don't even sell doe tags for. So It gets to be really wide open. In the northeast corner of Iowa, you've got some really rugged bluff country where the glaciers didn't come through. They consider that the driftless region. Big bluffs, completely different type of land than what I'm selling down here. But we've got a good variety for anybody that wants to rip around in the country.
Awesome.
That's so cool.
What's the property you'd like to highlight today?
Yeah, I'd like to highlight. I've got 260 acres in Van Buren County. A little bit of background: Van Buren County is a county where there are the most doe tags sold per year. So the Iowa DNR will manage the count at the county level for the doe tags, that's a relatively precise way to make sure that you're controlling the herd as good as you can. Van Buren County happens to have the most sales throughout the state. So it's a very high population of whitetails down there, very high population of turkeys as well, some pretty good small game hunting. But this 260 that I've got is really a turnkey managed hunting property. And we're selling it, we're asking $880,000. It's approximately 200 acres of your classic timber whitetail cover. And in that cover, you've got a variety of hardwood, rolling hardwood ridges. We've got some cedar thickets, some kind of early successional habitat like that young forest that's regenerating. You've got a good variety of cover there. And there's a nice trail system that goes through that timber and around the property. Then you've got about 60 acres of tillable. I believe 52 acres is in row crops. And then the remaining acres there, about 8 acres or so, is rented out for alfalfa hay.
Okay.
Cool.
Yep.
A lot of diversity.
I'll say what a balance in a property in 260 acres. You have just about everything: wooded draws, timber, thickets, early successional habitat, tillable ground, and then there's even a structure on the place as well, right?
Yeah, a lot of good structure, a lot of good edge. It's the tillable is broken up into like 3 different fields, and those one of the fields is a nice rectangle, but then the other 2 have like these nice spokes coming off of them, and it sets up really good for late season. So like the future buyer could farm it themselves if they've got the equipment. They could cash rent it, and then what my current seller does is he custom farms it. And anybody that's listening that isn't aware of custom farming is essentially the landowner is also considered like the farm tenant. And what that means is that that landowner will pay for all the inputs, and your input costs would be your seed, your chemical application, pesticide application. So you'll pay for the inputs, and then you'll also pay for the operator to actually plant and harvest. So typically it's done per acre. And then at the end of the growing season, when it's ready to harvest, you do your own grain marketing. So it's up to you to sell your grain or store it somewhere. So you've got all the skin in the game as far as input, and then the output, which can be better than just typically cash renting it and just for a flat rate. Why that's advantageous is that you are able to control the amount of grain. Us whitetail hunters and land managers, we want to be able to give our wildlife the food necessary to get through a harsh winter. That's going to give them the nutrition they need, but it's also going to keep them from roaming off of your ground. And it's just a really good way to hold deer and manage your herd is whenever you give them enough food over the winter time. So when you custom farm it, you can keep those crops there. It's totally up to you what you want to keep standing. In this case, my seller, he chooses to, his strategy is basically to break even and, be able to pay for his time and everything. So he's not losing money, but he's given his whitetails plenty of crops standing late season, and that has been an integral part of his management plan. He's had it for 4 years, and he's been able to hold a lot of good up-and-comers onto this property, and we're really starting to see the benefits of that now, just in time for him to be selling it. So.
That's pretty cool.
That's definitely something that I know guys like in southern Missouri can envy is a premier whitetail property that can make enough money to where you're not just dumping a load
Completely
of cash
shelling it
just
out,
which is what a lot of people experience. So it's great that this guy has a system down to where he's got great hunting, but he's not losing it over dumping just cash to provide the food and the resources for the wildlife that he's wanting to chase.
Yeah. Yep. The dollars and cents to an extent has to, it has to make sense for most people. And this is a good way to have have a good, solid, high-end management plan, but also not be totally crushing the wallet every year.
For sure. I noticed in some of the pictures there's some hunting blinds on this property. Are those going with the sale of the farm?
Yep. So we're marketing as turnkey. Turnkey basically means this baby's ready to go, ready to enjoy. There's really not a ton. I mean, we can always find habitat work that there's always going to need to be something done if you're really trying to manage the ground long term as a land steward. But turnkey meaning, yes, 5 blinds are going to be going with it. They're redneck tower blinds. I think the 3 are the traditional fiberglass hard-sided ones, and there's a couple soft-sided ones that are also elevated. They're already strategically placed that for some good quality late season hunting, and then also part of that this deal is a cabin. We've got a a 2-bedroom, 1-bath cabin that we call it a cabin, but it really could serve as a small house for somebody. It's really nice. It's well built, well insulated. It's efficient. It's warm. It's cozy. And then there's a loft upstairs, which is nice because technically it's not a third bedroom, but it could be used as one.
Sure.
And it's it's large, and there's a number of beds up there as well. So it could be a good summer getaway for somebody. It could be a good weekend getaway. Even could be a nice house for somebody, and they could build on if they so desire. So there's the cabin, there's the outbuilding. We've got rural water there, which is a nice thing. You're not messing with a well.
Mm-hmm.
It's at the end of a dead end road, and I'd say the most unique selling point to this one is that it's ultra secluded, and it's buried in and I measured it. It's from gravel to gravel, east, west, north, south. It's about 8 square miles that this farm is in the middle of. 8 square miles of classic whitetail farm country, and this thing with a lot of cover lies right in the center of it. So you just can't find that everywhere, especially in the Midwest, where you've got a lot of section lines, a lot of you got gravel every square mile basically. So to find something that's got this much uninterrupted ground going through it is really advantageous for a lot of wildlife to be there, to be comfortable. You're not going to be dealing with trespassing. We've got some really good neighbors in this area, and being positioned like that is another selling point in
That's
my
huge.
eyes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think of a couple buyers that come to mind. A deer hunter who's still going to have some income coming from the crop ground, or a crop farmer who could then lease out the hunting rights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. This would be a great spot for. I could certainly see, a couple guys, maybe even 3, going in together, and let's say that they're out of state. They drew the coveted Iowa bow tag, and they would want to maybe lease this for the entire season, not just trying to put all their chips into maybe 1 week of a guided hunt or an outfitted hunt.
Yeah.
And you got the place to stay there as well. So I've actually heard from a couple potential buyers that looked into something like that, where
Gotcha.
they see it more as an investment opportunity. So yeah, it's all in the eyes of the beholder. But this one really is, if you're serious about whitetail hunting, turkey hunting, having a place like this is going to allow you to be able to be selective with the deer that you're killing and that you're choosing to pass. My seller's management strategy has been to pass. His goal has really been to pass 4-year-olds and younger, and even some 5-year-olds that he felt have been home bodies. He's wanted them to get to 6. So
Wow.
he's shot a lot of call bucks and management bucks over the years to try to get those bullies off of there and give his 2- and 3-year-old up and comers and 4-year-olds, give him some space to thrive.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
it's been working out really well for him. His daughter shot a mid-60s 10 in the early youth muzzleloader season, and she's not even 10 years old, so she killed a great buck there in the beginning of the season, and it's been a good one. So you got that, and then you also got the pond is here as well. So
fishing opportunities.
You've got a stock pond, and if you're not as hardcore of a hunter, still a good place to come and recreate and just get away from town.
Absolutely. Yeah. During the off season, that's a great place for a little family getaway, it sounds like. Well, rolling through these pictures, there's a ton of deer on here, great caliber deer.
Clearly, there's been something going on correctly for the hunting. There's some studs in those pictures.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a number of deer there. I think he's up to 12 now that he's got 3 years of history with, or more, that are still alive. So
wow.
That's incredible.
That's telling in of itself that not only is he doing the right things to set this one up, but also the neighborhood is really not pressuring this herd a ton. Yeah. So a lot of good things going on with this one. It's definitely my premier listing that I have.
Yeah, what a fantastic opportunity for an outdoorsman and his or her family or friends or associates, whatever. This is a great place, and thank you very much for sharing it with us.
How could they reach you to learn more on this property?
Yeah, I tell you what, you go on whitetailproperties.com and you look for my name, Ben Harshyne. You're going to find me, but I prefer to talk on the phone, honestly, and get a feel for what buyers are looking for, and we can talk one-on-one and then answer any specific questions that if you really want to dive deeper into any of my listings. So feel free to give me a call. My phone number is 319-853-1162. Give me a shout. We can talk land in Eastern Iowa.
Perfect. Well, there you have it. Thank you so much for joining us, Ben.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
We'll see you, Ben.